Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to learn how to make a two-piece interlocking phone holder. We're going to learn how to create a 3D model of each of the individual parts. So of the phone, of the front, of the bottom, and the assembly. And eventually we're going to learn how to make a 2D drawing so that we can prototype this in the shop. I have a much longer video where I go over this giraffe style design and how I create very detailed and dimension drawings as well. So you can check out that video. It's about an hour long. It's a lot more complicated than this, but it goes into how to properly dimension and goes into the details of everything. So, but in this video, what we're gonna do in this video series, because we'll have multiple videos, is we're going to first create a phone, and then we are going to create the front piece and the bottom piece. So let's get started. You can go to the home page. We can go to create, and then we can go to document. Here I'm going to call this phone holder project or whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to create a public document. In the workspace, what you'll see is it has multiple tabs. It has tabs for parts, assemblies, and drawings. So pay attention here, and then notice that there is a feature tab where it has different axes. There's a top, a front, and a right axis, which you can also see in the cube here. So if you want to rotate, you hold the right mouse button and you can rotate. And if you want to go to front, you click front. So we're going to create a sketch on our front plane. So I'm going to hit sketch. I'm going to select the plane, which is the front plane, and then I'm going to make a drawing. In this example, I'm going to make a rectangle, and I always like to start my drawings from the datum or from the 0, 0 point. You'll notice there's a Z and an X axis, so I like to start it at 0, 0, and then I'm going to draw a rectangle. It doesn't matter what the size of the rectangle is, so after I left click to create the rectangle, I can hit escape. The great part about Onshape is you can start to change the size of the rectangles, and anything that you draw at a later time, and it will modify it. So don't worry about getting it perfect the first time. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the size of our phone. So to dimension it properly, you can either hit D on your keyboard or you can hit the dimension tool up here, and we can set what the dimension is. And so take a ruler and measure the size of your phone. So I have a Motorola Stylus phone, which is about 3 inches. It doesn't have to be precise. It's about 3 inches by about 6.5 inches. If you are seeing centimeters here and it doesn't look right, go to the document properties. So go here, change the workspace units, and make sure that you're working in inches. We work in inches because the machines in the shop are all in inches. So we need to learn how to use inches. And when I bought the wood for this project, it was also all done in feet and inches. So it's very important to learn that if you're not familiar. So 3 inches by 6.5 inches. Then the last piece is that there is a thickness to our phone, right? Our phone has a certain thickness, and so you can use the ruler and try to measure the thickness of your phone. My phone is about 1/2 inch thick with the case. So I'm going to click extrude. I'm going to click that sketch that I just created, right? So I'm going to create that sketch, and then it's going to extrude and stick out an amount. And so my phone is not that thick. It's probably much thinner. And so I'm actually going to set it to 0.5 inches. You can also, if you want, you can also use fractions as well. So you can go half, you can click plus, and there you go. You have your phone. Well, it's more of a block and it doesn't really look like a phone. Maybe we want to round each of these corners and bevel the back. That's what my case looks like to make this look a little bit more realistic. To round the corners, there are various tools that you can use. Google and YouTube has way more information, and even the Onshape documentation has way more documentation on how to use all of these tools. So please read the documentation, check out YouTube. You can learn a lot better and faster that way than having to ask others. So let's click fillet. And so fillet is something that creates a radius around. You can either create a radius or a width. We're going to create a radius around each of these edges. So I'm going to zoom in and just click that one edge, and you'll notice it makes it round. So I'm going to click all of those 4 edges. And again, the purpose of this is just to make our phone look a little bit more realistic so that in our model, it just looks a little bit more real. So I can communicate my ideas a little bit better. So I just created the radius. It looks good. I'm going to click plus, and there you go. You'll notice that every movement that you do or every action that you do has a feature. If I don't like this feature or I want it to disappear, I can right click and I can suppress, and it goes away, but it's not deleted. So I'm going to unsuppress. If you don't like it and you don't need it anymore, of course you can delete it. The other thing that we're going to do is on the back of the phone, I want to put a 45-degree bevel around the whole thing. I think it's called a bevel. I'm going to go here and I'm going to add something called a chamfer. So chamfer is like a technical term for that 45-degree bevel. And so I'm going to click that whole back face, and it's going to create this like nice, cool looking bevel. I'm going to click plus. Of course, I can spend more and more time making the phone a little bit more realistic, but we're really here to design the phone holder. So I think this is good enough for now. So now that the phone is done, we can create a new part that's going to be the phone holder. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to click plus, and I'm going to then create part studio. And this is going to give us another blank canvas so that we can go ahead and we can create our front and our back piece. So for our front, we're going to create a sketch, and we're going to do that on the front plane. And then in this example, we're going to draw a rectangle. And this is, again, the default size of the wood that you're going to be receiving. We can work to try to do something different, but let's go through this tutorial by setting the width to 4 inches. And then setting the height to 6 inches. And then the last thing that we're going to do is click plus, and then we are going to extrude outwards, and we're going to make it 0.5 inches. And again, these dimensions can change later, but let's just set these defaults for now. So that's the front block piece of wood. And then let's cut a square here that we can interlock, with the other square piece. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to sketch. We're going to click that face that we want to draw on, click front, and then we can draw it. When I click it, I want to hover over this line until I see that dot, the line in the dot, which means it's coincident or it's touching that line. And then I'm going to put out a slot that goes across here. I'm going to dimension this. So let's make this slot 1/2 inch. You can, of course, like make it a different size later, but I'm going to make that slot 1/2 inch. And I'm going to make this about, let's say 1.5, that's about 1.4. Let's make this 1.5 inch this way. And I want this to go halfway between this piece of wood. And so there are ways that you can use formulas and variables and things like that. But just for this beginner tutorial, I'm going to make it very, very easy to calculate what half of the distance is. So the first thing I can do is I can draw a line, and it will tell me that it's 4. Or if I wanted, I can dimension that line and realize that it's actually 4 inches. It's in gray because we actually already defined that it's 4 inches across in the previous sketch. In the previous sketch, we defined that it's 4 inches. So Onshape automatically will know that it's 4 inches across. I'm just doing this so I can understand how big it is so that I can quickly calculate and say I want to go 2 inches across. Perfect. So once our drawing is dimensioned, you'll notice that all the lines we drew are black, so they actually can't be moved. If I delete a dimension, let's say I don't dimension this to 2 inches, you'll notice that this line is blue, which means I can slide this across and I can change the dimension. So once I put it into a place that I like, always remember to dimension everything and constrain it so that you can't slide it. So Onshape will know that it's 2 inches. If you try to add too many dimensions, so now if I say from here to here I want it to also be 2 inches, or I try to say it's 3 inches, Onshape will make it red and will say it cannot be solved because there's no way that this piece that's 4 inches across can have something that's 2 inches and 3 inches, right? Because 2 plus 3 is more than 4. So that's called over constraining, where it cannot be solved. So don't add too many dimensions, just add the minimum that is necessary. Great, so we just put a slot. So how do we cut it out? You use that extrude tool, but to cut it out, instead of adding, we're going to remove. So we're going to remove, and we're going to click that face that we want to remove from. And so we can choose which side we want to cut, but instead of setting a depth, I want to go through the whole part. So even if I make the part thicker, it will still go all the way through, and it'll create a interlocked piece that way. Great, so that's the first part for the front. So I'm going to rename my tabs so I'm a little bit more organized. So this is front. This that we created the first time is the phone. And then the final piece that we're going to do is we're going to create Part Studio, and we're going to rename, and we're going to call this back. For the back version, we're going to create a sketch, but instead of doing it on the front plane, we're going to do it on the top plane. So I click the top plane, and then I view the top this way. And then I click the rectangle tool, start in the corner here, and again, I can draw my rectangle, and I'm going to use the same dimensions that I used previously. I'll test my memory. I think it was 4 inches, 4 inches by 6 inches. Perfect. And then this time I'm going to draw that, I'm actually going to draw that rectangle at the same time, the cutout tool, to save a little bit of time. And then I'm going to dimension it. So when I dimension, I'm going to dimension it on this side. So I'm going to go 6 inches here, and then I'm going to go from here to here, and then it's going to be 0.5, and then just like before, it was 1.5 inch up and 1.5 inches across. So 1.5 inches across, and then I'm going to use the scissor tool or the snipping tool. I'm not sure where that went, but I'm going to search for it. Sorry, it's called the trim tool. So I'm going to use the trim tool, and then I'm just going to trim. Sorry, let me try that again. So I'm going to use the trim tool, and so I have the trim tool selected, and I'm just going to trim this part. I'm gonna trim this part, and that way I can. And then I also, if I trim that, I need to add a dimension here. So I need to make sure this is here to here is 1.5 inches. Okay, so now I just drew this piece with that trim part cut out. I'm going to click plus. I'm going to click extrude. And I'm going to extrude this to 0.5. Perfect. I'm going to click plus. And now I have 3 pieces. So that was a lot of work. I'm going to pause this video, and I'm going to start a new video to explain to you how to assemble each of these. So hopefully that was helpful. The next step is to create the assembly.